Some wounds don't bleed, they just silently carve deeper with time. I once believed that family would always love and support me, until they disappeared on the most important day of my life. This is the story of how I rebuilt my life from rejection, and discovered a truth. Sometimes, family isn't the people who share your blood. It's the ones who choose to stay when everyone else walks away. What is family, really? I used to think it meant unconditional love. Today, I finally understand. In some families, the moment you step outside the box they built for you, you become a stranger. That evening, I brought home a bouquet of imported orchids. A small gift. A small effort to bridge the growing distance. My mother barely glanced at it, her face tightening with anger. "What's this?" she asked coldly. I said softly, "They're special orchids, and there's a little surprise tucked inside." But she didn't care to look. Instead, she scowled, her manicured nails digging into the armrest. Then she raised her voice so the entire room could hear. "You're useless." I stood there, still holding the flowers. My half-siblings, Nate and Cassie, snickered behind their hands, clearly enjoying the show. Some guests looked uncomfortable, others seemed entertained. My stepfather, Victor, scrolled casually through his phone. Detached from it all, I calmly bent down, gathering the scattered petals with my fingertips. The room fell silent, waiting for me to break. My heart pounded in my ears, but I refused to let them see me crumble. I straightened up, looked at my mother, and said evenly, "You know what's funny, Mom? There's more hidden in these flowers than you'll ever understand about me." But deep down, I knew, to them, I would always be an outsider. My mind drifted back 10 years. The day I graduated high school. I had just removed my cap and gown when my mother and Victor summoned me to the living room. They sat side by side, cold and formal, like judges about to deliver a verdict. "Alexandra," Victor said, voice sharp, "you're 22 now. We've been more than generous. It's time for you to move out and support yourself." Instead of panic, I felt a wave of relief. "I understand. I'll be gone by next week," I replied calmly, catching a flicker of surprise on their faces. They had clearly expected tears. Begging, but I gave them none. No one asked where I would go. No one asked if I needed anything. They were just relieved I agreed so easily. The next week, I packed my life into 4 cardboard boxes and 2 suitcases. As I stood in my now empty room, I realized something painfully clear. I had never truly belonged there. Grandma Ellie showed up right on time in her old blue Honda. I dragged my bags out to the curb. No one came to say goodbye. I watched the only home I had ever known shrink in the rearview mirror, and I didn't cry. Instead, with every mile we drove away, the invisible chains on my shoulders felt lighter. That summer, I worked at Sunshine Cafe, pouring coffee and serving sandwiches to regulars who tipped generously and smiled warmly. Mrs. Peterson, the owner, even offered me extra shifts so I could save up for college. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I felt valued. In September, I boarded a flight to Westlake University, 3 states away from everything I had ever known. As the plane took off, I whispered to myself, "This is my fresh start." College life wasn't easy. The real estate business program was brutal. But I threw myself into my studies, fueled by a fierce determination to build a life of my own. My roommate, Liv, became my first true friend since high school. When she finally learned my story, she just hugged me tight and said, "They didn't lose a daughter, Alex, they lost someone amazing." Sometimes late at night, I still found myself mindlessly scrolling through my mother's Instagram. There they were, laughing at parties, posing at luxury resorts, posting perfectly curated selfies. I was never mentioned, not once. It used to break my heart. Over time, the pain dulled. I spent my winter holidays at Grandma's. We baked pies, watched old movies, and laughed until our sides hurt. The smell of cinnamon and warm apples filling that little kitchen healed parts of me no extravagant event ever could. Whenever she caught me glancing at my phone, Grandma would gently take it from my hands and say, "Don't let the past hold you back. Sweetheart, you're writing your own story now." And little by little, I did. After graduating from Kumla University, I quickly received multiple job offers, thanks to my academic achievements and the internships I had worked tirelessly to secure. Liv's mentor, my best friend and college roommate, was Diana Westbrook, the CEO of a renowned real estate firm. Diana first noticed me during a real estate investment seminar at our university. "We need ambitious young minds like yours," she said during my interview, her sharp eyes full of appraisal. "Your professors speak very highly of your market analysis skills." I started at the bottom, as a junior real estate agent. But I knew I wasn't going to stay there. I worked weekends, meticulously building my own client network, studying market trends late into the night. Within 5 years, I had become one of the firm's top sellers and saved enough to buy my first high-end apartment. The day I signed my mortgage contract, I stood alone in my empty living room, sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I clutched the keys in my hand and let the tears fall freely, not from sadness, but from pride. Everything I had earned by myself. About 6 years later, one morning, Diana called me into her office. "I've been watching your progress," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "You've consistently outperformed everyone. I want you to become a partner in our luxury real estate division." My hands trembled as I opened the file. The commission structure outlined inside was beyond anything I had ever dreamed of, especially at just 28 years old. I never flaunted my achievements on social media. Sure, I had accounts, but I mostly posted landscapes or real estate projects, not my personal milestones. Grandma Ellie was the only one who knew I had recently bought a new condo and rewarded myself with a sleek black Audi R8. "You deserve every bit of it," she would say softly, her smile glowing with pride every time I shared my successes. Meanwhile, Nate and Cassie, my half-siblings, kept filling their profiles with carefully staged photos. Nate posed next to his used BMW, captioning it "CEO Lifestyle, Blessings of Hard Work," while Cassie posted pictures at luxury boutiques she could only enter thanks to Victor's credit card. One particular post actually made me laugh. Nate standing by his car at a local networking event, proudly writing, "Hard work pays off, successful real estate entrepreneur." I read that post while sitting in my Audi R8, a car worth more than his entire annual salary, and just shook my head. But I felt no need to prove anything. Real success doesn't need an Instagram filter. Everything was peaceful, until that one unexpected message appeared. It was a Tuesday morning. A notification popped up on my phone. A direct message on Instagram, from my mother. "Alexandra, it's Mom. Mother's Day is coming up. I'm hosting a small family gathering at the house. I hope you'll attend, and make sure to bring something appropriate. Sunday, 10 a.m. sharp. Don't embarrass me by coming empty-handed." I froze, the coffee in my hand going cold. 3 years of almost no communication. No calls. No apologies. And now, a message, as if nothing had ever happened. As if my attendance and a gift were obligations, not choices. I almost deleted the message right then and there. But something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was time. Time to stop pretending this broken relationship didn't exist, and finally confront it for what it truly was. I called Diana to request a few days off, then booked a flight back home. The feeling in my chest was a tangled mix of nerves and dread. That evening, in Grandma Ellie's cozy kitchen, filled with the warm scent of freshly baked cookies, she asked, "What are you planning to give your mother, sweetheart?" I smiled, pulled out my phone, and showed her a picture. A lakeside vacation home I had just purchased through a foreclosure auction. 3 bedrooms, a private dock, panoramic views of the water, valued at over $450. Grandma froze, her teacup hovering halfway to her lips. "Alex, you're serious?" She set her cup down, her voice tinged with disbelief. "After everything she's done to you, she doesn't deserve a gift like that." I nodded, sipping my tea, feeling its warmth spread through my chest. "I know she doesn't," I said calmly, "but I want to see the look on her face when she realizes just how wrong she's been about me." Grandma chuckled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "You're a little sly, you know that? But I have to admit, I can't wait to see it too. Sunday morning, I drove to my mother's house. I chose a simple but elegant Armani suit, showcasing wealth without shouting it. Instead of driving my Audi, I rented a basic car. I wanted to see how they would judge me based solely on appearances. In my hands, I carried a bouquet of rare orchids and peonies, carefully wrapped in silk paper. My heart pounded as I walked up the familiar path. The house looked exactly as I remembered, hastily upgraded with granite countertops and cheap cabinets underneath. The kind of place that would impress only those who'd never seen true luxury. My mother opened the door. She gave me a quick once-over, her expression tightening. "Oh, Alexandra," she said dismissively. "You could have dressed a bit better for the occasion." I simply smiled. The living room was already crowded. My mother sat proudly in her favorite armchair, Victor by her side, with Nate and Cassie flanking them like minor royalty. Surrounding them were distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, Aunt Linda, Cousin Rachel, and a few other vaguely familiar faces. I quietly took a seat in the back corner, an observer rather than a participant. One by one, people presented their gifts. Aunt Linda gave a set of scented candles from a mall boutique, and my mother gushed over them as if they were diamonds. Rachel handed over a spa gift card, earning squeals of excitement. Then came Nate and Cassie's turn. They stood up, beaming like they had just won the lottery. "Mom," Nate said proudly, "Cassie and I pooled our money to get you something special." Cassie pulled out her phone and flashed a picture. A brand new 65-inch smart TV already installed in the living room. My mother burst into tears, pulling them into a tight hug, her jewelry clinking loudly. "My wonderful, generous children," she sobbed. "I can't believe you did this. You must have saved up for months." Finally, every eye in the room turned to me. I rose, walked forward, and offered my carefully selected bouquet. Instantly, my mother's expression darkened. She frowned, her voice dripping with disdain. "And what's this?" she asked, not even reaching for the flowers. "They're imported orchids," I said softly, "and there's a small surprise tucked inside." But she didn't even glance. Instead, her face flushed red with anger. "Oh, I should have known," she sneered. "You're still useless. Showing up in that outfit, probably the nicest thing you own." Her eyes flicked down to my shoes, then out the window to the basic rental car parked in the driveway. "You probably had to rent a car because you can't even afford something decent. Can you?" Snickers rippled through the room from Nate and Cassie. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. Others looked outright entertained, like they were watching a cheap soap opera unfold. Victor, my stepfather, didn't even glance up from his phone. And then my mother tossed the bouquet back at me. It landed hard on the coffee table, scattering delicate petals across the glass, like tiny wounds against my pride. I knelt down, slowly gathering each fallen petal with trembling hands. In that moment, I understood something more clearly than ever. I wasn't the rejected little girl anymore. I had grown up, and I was ready. I calmly picked up the bouquet, gently collecting the scattered petals on the table. The room was dead silent. Every eye was locked on me, waiting to see how I would react. My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to let them see me falter. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice steady even as emotions churned inside me. I flipped open the tiny card tucked into the bouquet, revealing the ownership deed to a lakeside property. 3 bedrooms, a private dock, sweeping panoramic views, valued at about $450. The air froze. My mother's face went ghostly pale. Cassie dropped her champagne glass with a loud crash that shattered the silence. "No way," my mother stammered, her makeup unable to mask her shock. "How could you possibly afford something like that?" I laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that echoed through the tension-choked room. "If any of you had cared about my life," I said, locking eyes with my mother, "you might have already known." I paused, savoring the moment. "Let me fill you in. I'm a partner at Westbrook Luxury Properties. I own my own condo downtown. And that rental car you sneered at? I chose it because I didn't want to leave my Audi R8 parked overnight in this neighborhood." Nate's mouth dropped open. Cassie fidgeted nervously with her fake designer bracelet. I took a slow breath and looked around the room. But you were all too busy believing I was a failure. I said quietly. You didn't bother to find out the truth. I tucked the envelope back into the bouquet. Then gently set it down on the table. Don't worry, I added with a soft smile. I won't ruin your perfect Mother's Day. Enjoy your TV. I hear the resolution almost rivals the one on my home theater system. I turned and walked away. Head held high. The sound of the front door clicking shut behind me feeling like the final punctuation to a long, painful chapter. I drove straight to Grandma's house. With every mile, the weight on my shoulders grew lighter. Grandma was waiting for me. 2 steaming cups of tea already on the coffee table. The soft scent of cinnamon and orange peel filled the air, soothing my battered heart. I sat down and told her everything that had happened. My voice wavered at times. But Grandma just quietly took my hand in hers. Some people never change, she sighed. Your mother has always cared more about appearances than real feelings. As we sat there talking, my phone rang again. A number I didn't recognize. But something in my gut told me exactly who it was. I answered. Alexandra, sweetheart. My mother's voice was unnervingly sweet. I've been thinking about what happened today. Maybe I was too hasty. If you still have the deed, maybe we can start fresh. We're family, after all, aren't we? I tightened my grip on the phone, feeling my chest go cold. No, I said, my voice calm and sure. We only share DNA. We are not family. And you don't want a relationship. You just want the lake house. And with that, I hung up. My hands trembled slightly, but for the first time, I felt steady, truly steady. My phone buzzed nonstop after that. Mom called from every number she could. Victor's phone. The old landline. Even random unknown numbers. At first, the messages were pleading. Alex, please call me back. We need to talk about the house. Then they turned sly. You could really help Nate build his real estate career. He's so good with people. Cassie's looking for an internship. It would look great on her resume to work at your company. The lake house just needs a little fixing up. With your resources, it wouldn't be a big deal. Not a single apology. Not even the slightest acknowledgement of the pain they had caused. Just a relentless stream of requests, and thinly veiled grabs for my money. I scrolled through the messages like I was reviewing client files. Detached. Clinical. There was no emotional power left in them. Not anymore. The texts kept pouring in. Each one shifting tactics like they were testing which angle might work. Sometimes it was guilt-tripping. I'm your mother. How could you ignore me after everything I sacrificed? Sometimes flattery. You're such a successful businesswoman now. I'm so proud of you. Sometimes manipulation. Family should help family in hard times. Sweetheart. And sometimes, even threats. I'll make sure everyone in the industry knows how you abandoned your poor mother. A week later, Grandma called me, her voice tight with anger. Your mother showed up at my garden gate today, she said, demanding the address for that lake house. I gripped my phone harder. What did you tell her? Grandma let out a small, dry chuckle, her spirit unshaken despite her age. I told her if she didn't leave immediately, I'd call the police. I could picture it perfectly. Mom in one of her fake designer outfits. Face flushed with anger. Trying to guilt her way back into my life. Grandma continued. She ranted about all her sacrifices. About how ungrateful we both were. Mrs. Henderson next door even overheard everything while watering her roses. Then Grandma's tone grew serious. But Alex, be careful. There was something in her eyes. She looked desperate. I reassured her. I've blocked her on everything, social media, phone, email. The reception desk at my office even has her photo posted. Just in case. After the call, I wandered through my apartment. I ran my fingers over the cool marble countertops. Watched the city lights shimmer through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Every single thing here, the custom furniture, the original artwork, the breathtaking skyline view, I had built for myself. I thought about Mom's messages. Not a single apology. Not one genuine attempt to make things right. Just endless demands, for money. For favors for Nate and Cassie. And strangely, I felt sad. Not because I missed her. but because I realized what she mourned wasn't the relationship with me. It was the access she no longer had to the material things she thought she deserved. And then, I smiled, a slow, bittersweet smile. She had taught me one final lesson. Family isn't just about blood. It's about love, about showing up, about choosing each other, again and again, through good days and bad. And I had found that family. With Grandma and Liv. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I set up a trust and transferred ownership of the lake house, to be shared between Grandma and me. When I told her, tears welled up in her kind, weathered eyes. You didn't have to do that, sweetheart, she whispered, her voice trembling. I simply smiled and hugged her tightly. You deserve every good thing in this world, I said softly, and in her warm embrace. For the first time in years, I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. Not in a family built on appearances and empty words, but in a real home, built on unconditional love. Family isn't just where we come from. It's where we are truly loved. And sometimes, growing up means having the courage to walk away from those who share our blood, to find the ones who choose to stay. Heart and soul, remember this. Loving yourself isn't selfish. It's the first step toward finding true peace.